Hello, Smart Garden community. Today we're venturing into a fascinating chapter of agricultural history that's been hiding in plain sight. Beyond the Iron Curtain, a green revolution born from necessity, the Soviet Union faced an agricultural challenge unlike any other superpower. With vast territories extending deep into Siberia and the Arctic Circle, Soviet agronomists confronted a brutal reality. Traditional farming methods simply collapsed in regions where winter temperatures plummeted to -40 degrees, and permafrost lurked just beneath the topsoil. The USSR couldn't afford to import massive quantities of grain, and political ideology demanded self-sufficiency. This pressure cooker of necessity sparked innovation that Western agriculture largely overlooked during the Cold War decades. Soviet botanists and soil scientists embarked on what can only be described as extreme agriculture. They weren't working in comfortable research stations with controlled environments. These scientists trudged through Siberian winters, studying how native plants survived, where conventional crops perished. Their mission was to identify and cultivate species that could not only withstand soul-crushing cold, but actively improve degraded soils while doing so. The research stations scattered across the non-Kernozem regions became laboratories for botanical resilience, where failure meant not just poor harvests, but potential famine for millions. The permafrost paradox: engineering life from frozen ground. The challenge these scientists face seems almost impossible from a modern gardening perspective. Imagine trying to grow cover crops in soil that freezes solid for 8 months, where the active growing season might last only 60 days, and where the ground beneath never truly thaws. Permafrost creates a unique horror for plants. Roots cannot penetrate deeply, drainage becomes problematic, and soil microbes enter a state of suspended animation. Yet Soviet researchers understood something profound about cold hardiness that we're only now fully appreciating in regenerative agriculture. Plants don't simply endure freezing temperatures, they actively prepare for them through a process called cold acclimation or hardening. Soviet scientists discovered that gradual exposure to cooling temperatures triggers remarkable biochemical changes within plant cells. Water gets pumped out of cells into intercellular spaces, while sugars and other compounds concentrate inside cells, creating a natural antifreeze that prevents devastating ice crystal formation. This wasn't theoretical science confined to laboratories. Researchers tested these principles across hundreds of collective farms, learning which species could withstand not just cold, but the brutal freeze-thaw cycles that destroy weaker plants. Red Army plants, the botanical super soldiers of Soviet agriculture. Winter rye emerged as the undisputed champion of Soviet cold-climate agriculture. Sakal cereal possessed almost supernatural cold tolerance, surviving temperatures that would kill wheat, barley, and most other cereals outright. Rye's secret weapon extended beyond mere survival. Its aggressive root system could penetrate compacted, partially frozen soils that stopped other crops cold. Soviet agronomists observed rye establishing itself in autumn, developing extensive root networks before winter's full fury arrived, then resuming growth the moment spring temperatures rose above freezing. This wasn't just hardiness, it was strategic botanical engineering, perfected over centuries of natural selection in harsh Eurasian climates. But rye rarely worked alone in Soviet agriculture. Scientists developed sophisticated multi-species cover crop systems that combined cereals with cold-hardy legumes, particularly hairy vetch. This pairing addressed a critical challenge. Nitrogen availability in frozen soils essentially stops. Soil microbes responsible for nitrogen cycling become dormant in freezing temperatures, creating potential fertility crises. Hairy vetch, however, maintains symbiotic relationships with nitrogen-fixing bacteria that remain active at surprisingly low temperatures. When spring arrived, these legume cereal combinations provided both organic matter from cereal biomass and biologically fixed nitrogen from vetch, creating a regenerative cycle that actually improved soil structure year after year. The cultivation techniques Soviet scientists developed were equally ingenious. Frost seeding became a standard practice in many regions, where seeds were broadcast onto frozen ground in late winter. As snow melted and freeze-thaw cycles occurred, seeds worked themselves into the soil naturally, germinating precisely when conditions became favorable. Snow mulching, Another Soviet innovation involved allowing winter cover crops to grow tall enough before winter that snow accumulated around them, creating insulation that moderated soil temperatures and prevented the worst damage from extreme cold snaps. What makes this Soviet research so relevant today isn't just historical curiosity, it's the urgent need to adapt agriculture to climate instability. Modern regenerative farmers are rediscovering that winter rye and hairy vetch combinations provide extraordinary benefits beyond just covering soil. These species create soil aggregate stability in ways that summer cover crops simply cannot match. The freeze-thaw cycles that winter crops endure actually enhance soil structure, as expanding and contracting soil particles create micropores that improve water infiltration and root penetration for subsequent crops. Soviet research into soil microbiology under extreme conditions revealed that certain beneficial fungi and bacteria maintain activity at temperatures we once thought impossible for biological processes. These cold-adapted microorganisms form relationships with winter cover crops, breaking down organic matter slowly throughout winter and releasing nutrients precisely when spring crops need them most. Modern soil scientists studying these interactions are finding applications for high-latitude farming, high-altitude agriculture, and even urban gardens in northern climates where growing seasons remain frustratingly short. Perhaps most remarkably, Soviet researchers conducted experiments with ancient plant tissues preserved in Siberian permafrost, successfully reviving Silene stenophylla from seeds frozen for 30,000 years. This research demonstrated that extreme cold hardiness involves genetic mechanisms we're only beginning to understand, mechanisms that could be bred into modern crop varieties facing increasingly volatile weather patterns. The botanical innovations developed behind the Iron Curtain remind us that agricultural breakthroughs don't always come from well-funded corporate research facilities or prestigious universities. Sometimes the greatest advances emerge from necessity, from scientists working in impossible conditions with limited resources, but unlimited determination. As climate change brings weather extremes to regions previously blessed with predictable seasons, the Soviet experience with winter cover crops offers a roadmap for resilience that we'd be foolish to ignore. For home gardeners and small-scale farmers, the practical applications are immediate and accessible. Winter rye and hairy vetch seeds remain widely available and remarkably inexpensive. Establishing them in late summer or early fall, allowing them to overwinter, then cutting them down as green manure in spring provides nitrogen, organic matter, weed suppression, and soil structure improvement, all from plants engineered by nature and refined by Soviet agricultural science to thrive in conditions that would destroy conventional crops. If this exploration of forgotten agricultural science has sparked your curiosity about resilient gardening practices, please subscribe to Smart Garden for more deep dives into the innovations that can transform your growing space. Share this video with fellow gardeners who appreciate that sometimes the most cutting-edge techniques come from looking backward at solutions already proven under the harshest conditions imaginable. Together, we can build gardens that don't just survive, but truly thrive, no matter what weather extremes the future brings.